that the one that's
Okay, and we are live.
Well, hello everybody. Good to see you today. How you guys doing? How are you, Grant?
I am doing good.
Yep, and you guys can probably see we have a third person here with us today. Say hello to the tremendous game designer, Emerson Matsuuchi.
Hi, how you guys doing?
Great, Emerson. Thank you so much for joining us. For all of you who may not be familiar with Emerson's work, Spectre Ops, excuse me, the Century series, Century Spice Road, Eastern Wonders, all of those. The great Kickstarter that got tremendously funded, right? What was the final total on that, Emerson?
Oh, I think it was 1.1 million.
Yeah, that's fantastic. What are some of your other titles?
Let's see. I've done the Century series. Reef is another one.
That's right, Reef. Yep.
I'm also working on the upcoming Metal Gear Solid game, which I'm very excited about as well.
Nice.
Yeah, fantastic. Very good, very good. Well, we'll ask you a couple of questions later. What we want to do is just talk about what's been going on lately here in Vegas, how everybody's been doing, see who's with us. We got Anthony and Brooke. I see Steve with us too. Hello, guys. How you doing? Sure there's others with us as well. Yeah. Whoops. Uh-oh.
What'd you do, Tim? So Emerson, if you don't know this, Tim is a little technologically challenged.
Oh.
So every once in a while.
Oh, there I am.
Good company.
Yeah, I think it's back. Yeah, I think it's back. Sorry about that, guys. I was doing the thing. But yeah, you probably met a lot of the people who are going to be with us here at Dice Tower West as well, Emerson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because a lot of local people, a lot of other people are joining us as well. But so what have you been up to this week, Grant?
Nothing. What did I do this week? Not a whole lot. Been playing a lot of computer games. That's about the only thing we had to do. Again, I've still been on a pretty good 2 to 3 week break from board games. It just hasn't been clicking with me lately. So me and my roommates, we just haven't gotten back around to playing anything new yet. Every once in a while, somebody will bug me. We finally started working out again. I'm lucky that I had a full home gym set up in my garage. I just had been lazy not using it. So one of my roommates was finally like, hey, we should get back to that. I'm like, yeah, I agree. So I've been getting back out there. Just stuff like that.
So we expect you to come back looking like the Hulk, right?
Oh, I wish.
Yeah, no, all I've been doing is getting bigger. I'm trying to lose weight, though. My wife and I have been walking, trying to get some exercise in, and wow, I was thinking, I don't know about you, but I think we talked about it a little bit before. I know I've been getting extremely bored. Like, the first 2 weeks was kind of, it was like, hey, sitting around doing some projects and all that kind of stuff, but now it's like, man, I'm waiting to get back to the store to get it open,
Yeah.
How about you, Emerson?
Oh, it's I can definitely sympathize with you. But for me, it's been actually busier for me because I have 3 kids, and now because of the homeschooling, now we kind of have to spend a lot of time with the kids, going through their homework assignment or their classwork assignments. So we do get a lot of support from the teachers, but the onus is really on us to continue their schooling. Because I believe the current situation is that they're not going back to school before their year ends, their academic year ends.
Yeah,
so that's right. Yeah, and for our guests out there who are watching, may not know, Emerson is from New York, and they have canceled the school year in New York for the rest of the year, right?
I believe so. Yeah, at least until the summer. Yeah, as far as we know, it's canceled until the summer. So we have to. It's on the shoulders of the parents to be able to finish their schooling for their current grade.
Wow, and when you say what have they given you? What kind of resources have they given you guys?
We're using Google Classroom is one of the things. Teachers have been posting up videos up on YouTube. They've also got their own like little portals for the kids to be able to look at what homework assignments that they need to do. Every We get an email from the teachers at least once a week to give us like the sort of like the syllabus. So we'll have the assignments of what they need to do on each of the days, what are the projects that they need to do. A lot of the things we need to video our kids doing. So some of the things, like for instance, physical education, they want the kids to go outside, do some
Oh
exercise.
wow.
And we have to video them
Uh,
and submit those videos for their music. We'd have to record them playing their music and so forth. So there's a lot more interaction, and I definitely have taken for granted how much the teachers and the schools have really helped our children, because now I'm seeing that there's a lot of work that goes into nurturing them, educating them, and so forth.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
oh
if,
yeah.
if people didn't appreciate teachers before all this, I'm sure parents are just like, oh my God, teachers are amazing.
Yes. Yes.
Oh no, absolutely. Teachers
Absolutely.
have always not gotten paid enough, as far as I'm concerned, and I
Agreed.
know they
Agreed.
they feel the same way, of course. But yeah, they definitely need to get paid so much more. So I think you're right, Grant. After this, I think hopefully there'll be a lot more teacher reform as far as pay goes for them.
Hopefully so. Hopefully so.
Yeah. So let me see. So Emerson, what have you been working on while you've been home?
Oh, I do have actual some work that I have been doing. I've been doing some 3D modeling work for Gameland Games, which is a company that brings you like the tiny epic stuff. So I've been doing some 3D modeling. Unfortunately, like because we do spend a lot of time with the kids because of the schooling. So I could really only get work done over the weekends, like a solid block of time over the weekends to do work. So I've just been doing some work there, and I haven't been doing a whole lot of design work just because we've just been busy with so many other things that have been going on. So design
Right.
has been, unfortunately, it's been sort of taking a backseat at the moment.
But when you say you design like for the Tiny Epic,
Yeah.
did you have a hand in designing, say, like any of the models and stuff for Foundations of Rome?
Actually, for Foundations in Rome, no, I did not do any of the 3D modeling for Foundations in Rome, although I did offer. I did offer. But I did tell them that when it comes to like very, very fine details or very like organic details, that's sort of like I do have some limitations. So for the most part, I'm more of a hobbyist when it comes to 3D modeling.
Okay.
So,
Makes sense.
but some of the tiny epic stuff, it sort of fit into the wheelhouse because because they're shrunk down so small
Yeah.
that the details are oftentimes lost. So, and I'm usually fairly good about getting some quick concepts out there based on concept illustrations that can always whip up 3D models fairly quickly. Although I do have to, if Michael from Game One Games is watching this, that I apologize. It's been my pace at which I do the modeling has slowed down quite a bit just because of the environment that we're in right now.
Oh, right. Yeah. So let me ask you about Century. That's probably been like one of your biggest sellers, right? By
Oh,
quantity,
yeah.
would you say?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is definitely
So
the biggest selling one.
a couple of questions about that. Would you agree that a lot of people compare Century to Splendor? How do you feel about that comparison?
Oh, I mean, I'm flattered by the comparison because Splendor is an incredibly good game. I enjoy it quite a bit. It's also a very popular game, so I think just in that light, I think it's a very flattering comparison, at least in my book. But in terms of the mechanics, though, Splendor and Century, they do have like different core set of mechanics.
Yes.
So, but I think probably the most apt comparison is with Sid Sackson's classic game called Bazaar.
Oh,
So
okay.
that
I'm not
that
familiar with that one.
you're trading gems for other gems. So, mechanically, it's got a lot of similarities to that, much more than it does with Splendor.
Interesting.
But,
Oh, okay.
uh,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think people compare it to Splendor a lot because of the quickness of turns and the sort of ease of decisions in a sense, right? Maybe.
yes, yeah, I think so. I think it's not an unfounded comparison. Like I think that there's some, at least in terms of like the experience that you get, because they both have very quick turns. They both have very low barrier to entry to learn. They have very condensed rule sets and a good amount of depth of play. If I can pat myself on the back a little bit.
Oh yeah. No, of course you can.
So,
Yeah.
So
So,
I think it's an apt comparison.
so I read somewhere, and you can tell me if this is wrong, if I misunderstood it, but that you specifically wanted to create a Euro cube pusher. That was your impetus behind this game. Is that true or not?
Well, it's how I presented it for sure. So I mean, I think your statement is fairly accurate in that when I had presented it, I presented it at this is a themeless, soulless, cube pushing Euro game.
People feel that about a lot of Euro games, by the way, themeless and
But
soulless.
I do have to give some context though, because this was at the time when I was working closely with Plaid Hat, and they were known as the company that had like the great thematic, very narrative-driven games. So when Colby had told me, Colby, who was the head of Plaid Hat Studios, Plaid Hat Games, he wanted to see all the type of designs that I have, and I was convinced that this would be one that he wasn't interested in. And so when I presented it to him, like I wanted to set his expectations correctly, that this was something that was very far from Plaid Hat's wheelhouse. And so I told him this is a themeless, soulless, cube pushing Euro. So that's where that story had come from. Is that I did mention that that's what this game was.
Oh, so let me ask you about it. So in the beginning, then, if you say you presented this or you were talking to Plaid Hat, would that be maybe one of the reasons why they didn't pick it up, or were you intended to submit your design to them?
Oh, actually, they were interested in it. They wanted it, and it was also at a time when Plaid Hat was in the process of getting acquired by F2Z Entertainment. So Plaid Hat did actually acquire the rights to it. So I believe we did have a contract, and it was going to be a Plaid Hat game. But then at that time we were thinking about should we create a sub brand for it under Plaid Hat that is a little bit more specific to, say, more family games or more Euro games. So it gives the consumers a way to distinguish between, your Dead of Winters versus like, more your light Euro type of games.
Mm-hmm.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah. So when Plaid Hat got acquired by F2Z Entertainment, basically Z-Man, they had rebranded it under Z-Man because it sort of fits into that branding a bit more.
Oh, okay. So let me ask you something. So,
sure.
And another thing, kind of, I heard, like, who knows, like rumors and stuff go around. But when you designed Century, was it initially just Century, and then they presented you with the series, or did you always have the series in mind?
Oh, I actually never had the series in mind. Actually, it's just the one game. I thought it was the one and done of a game.
Okay.
Kind of like Splendor, where it is a game. It's out there. It wasn't advertised as a trilogy of games, but it was only after Plan B had started, and when I had the conversation with Plan B, because Plan B then acquired the rights for it, that they had asked, "Hey, can we make this into a trilogy of games?" And it was only at that point did I actually think about creating a series of games. They wanted to. There's another funny story: is that they had asked if the games can be mixable, and what I didn't realize at the time was that there was a little bit of, I don't want to call it like mistranslation or anything like that, but I had interpreted mixable differently than what they had in mind in terms of mixable. So when they said. So when they said mixable, it's really how Dominion. So for instance, you have Dominion, the base game of Dominion, but then you also have Dominion Alchemy or Prosperity and things like that. So they're basically standalone expansions. So I think when they said mixable, what they were asking is like, can we make standalone expansions to it? But in my mind, I had something completely different in my head. I thought, oh, they're asking me to make 3 different games, but have them be combined in a way to create like a new type of a game.
So that's how I first heard about it. Was when it was announced with the full trilogy of like, this is going to be a big full. You can play the first game, but then all of them together were going to be one big grand game, and that's what had me initially interested. That was the first time I'd heard about it. Was all 3 together.
Yeah, it was. It was. I guess I tend to, just in real life, I just tend to overcomplicate things. And of course, I took that statement and I completely overcomplicated it.
So let me ask you something. You may not want to answer this, I'm not sure. But when you signed, if there was that kind of thing, the agreement, hey, I'm going to do this, Did you or did you not actually have games?
I did, at the time that it was committed and it was announced, I did not have the games.
There you go, folks. It's an exclusive.
And that was also another area where I think there was a little bit of miscommunication, probably most likely a fault on my side. But when they had presented this and say, "Hey, is it something that you can do?" I said, "Yeah, I think we could probably do something like this." But I was saying that in the context of conceptually, it should be theoretically possible to do it. But I think they had interpreted it as like, "Oh, I'm committing to doing this." So then they made the announcement on, I believe the date was like January 11th. They made the announcement. I saw the announcement and I thought to myself, "Oh, okay, now I have to do this."
So you were set at a timeline then, right? They actually
Yes.
they had a release date and everything.
Yes, they had the basically the whole schedule set for the launch of the product. So I had to deliver on those designs at that point. Which and at the time that the announcement was made, I didn't actually have any additional designs for it. So it's something I had to develop during that period.
Wow. So when you had all this pressure on you to come up with this two more games actually to the trilogy,
Mhm.
in your thought process, did you go one at a time or did you think to the third and come back? Or how did that whole process work?
Oh yeah, that's a really, really good question. I actually had to develop both of them simultaneously, because if they needed to combine, the second and the third needed to combine, I'd have to, in a way, develop all three to or develop the other two together. So when I was developing two, I was also developing the core for three. Although there was, in a way, I had several different possibilities in terms of mechanics that I could use. So I did actually have several other potential games as well. So, and then through playtesting and just getting feedback, just bringing it in front of focus groups, then did we decide on which sets of mechanics that we thought would be the best fit for the series.
Okay. So by the time two was done already, did you almost, what percentage of three was done by the time two was
Oh,
completed?
yeah, if I were to hazard a guess, around 60%. So more than
Okay.
halfway done on three. So
Oh,
and we
very
actually
Okay.
good.
had
Yeah.
two versions of three actually. So I had a tiling version of three as well as the worker placement version. And then in a way we sort of had a hybrid of tile placement and then you place workers on the tiles and so forth. So we did have two distinct variations with a possible combination of the two. So we were about 60% of the way there on both of those fronts. And it was only after presenting it to different playtest groups did we decide to go one direction over the other. So the tile laying one was actually incredibly cerebral. And we brought it to some people who were big fans of Spice Road. They absolutely loved Spice Road. And when we brought it to them, I remember writing this down and submitting this as feedback is that I thought their brains were going to explode because it was just, so there was such a much higher cognitive load when there was a spatial element and when you mix that in with like the whole optimization puzzle that it's just looking at their faces, they had a lot of strained faces and we could tell that it wasn't sort of the experience that we wanted. At least the players who really enjoy Spice Road, it wasn't the type of game that they would gravitate towards because we made it a much heavier game.
Oh, I see. All
Uh,
right, very good. Wow, that's really interesting because I actually love Century and I teach it a lot. It
Thank you.
gets played a lot. We have what, like three copies in the library, Grant?
Oh, probably between that and Gollum. Also, side note: the Gollum edition is the superior edition. You heard it here first.
It is nice looking. It is nice looking.
I like
Now,
the gems. The gems just beat the little cubes.
so let me ask. So okay. So I'm glad Grant brought that up. So was that your idea or their idea? And then if it was their idea, do they have to get your approval first?
Oh, okay. The original idea actually came from Plaid Hat. So when Plaid Hat had first said that they were interested in picking up the design, I told them uh, that I thought that it would be best served if it had a Euroish style theme to it because it's going to speak to that particular audience.
Hmm.
Because I originally wanted a Netrunner style, like cyberpunk theme
Mhm.
to it. And hear me out in terms of how it would fit is that the victory point cards were actually like the corporate the secret agendas or the files that you're trying to hack into the system, and the market cards that you have in your hand were your program cards. And then the cubes would represent the different levels of access you needed in order to be able to access those files. So thematically, everything tied together. Also, once one player got their like fifth card or the fifth victory point card, the whole system would go on lockdown, and that was what thematically why the game ended the way that it did. So, and thematically, everything sort of fit, but it was pointed out to me that by putting a cyberpunk theme on the cover,
Yeah.
It's going to give a different expectation of what's the type of game that's in the box. And I was told by many people who I have a lot of respect for in terms of their game design prowess and their knowledge of how the industry works, that having a theme that attracts people, it may not be a theme that is exciting in and of itself, but it sends the correct message to your audience. And that's why, when I had talked to Plathead about the theme for Century Spice Road, that it would have this theme only so that people will have the right expectation going into the game. So,
oh, okay. And then the skin of Gollum, was that your idea or theirs?
that was actually theirs. They said that, hey, they think that they can come up with a theme that will not only speak to the right audience, but also provide a theme that was captivating and something that was really, really appealing on its own. So it's more than just to announce what type of a game it is, but also to like help players kind of immerse themselves into the theme. Because Plaid was always about heavy narrative, heavy themes. They were always about the theme and immersing the players. So that was actually Plaid Hat's touch, and they said that I think just due to them wanting to work with me, they said, hey, let's try both. Let's put both of them out there and let the customers, let the actual market decide which ones that they want. So it was actually their ideas to have two different skins for the game.
Right.
Oh, and that just worked out perfectly for how you guys did it. That you got the core gamers with the original one, and then the people that also like the theme with the other ones. You got that perfect crossover between the two.
Yes. So I think it's great that we have like both themes as an option.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just the whole series, the game, everything is really fantastic. I mean, congratulations on such a great job with that game and that whole series, because it's really, really good.
It's a relief to hear, because that fear always hangs over me that the two games that followed it was a whole lot of pressure to deliver something that would feel like it's congruous, that it fits in the series, and it was always like my fear that I would make a game that feels like it's out of place. So
no, absolutely.
Yeah.
So let me ask you something. So let me go a little bit deeper then about that. So now, sure. As far as the arc goes, so Century was like a big splash, and then I don't know if the expectations for 2 and 3. I mean, it's just like movies. People always say the second is never as good as the third, and blah 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 and so forth. Did you expect the arc to go up? Did it go down? Did it level off? How did that go as planned? And how do you feel about the final outcome as far as the following 2 and 3?
Oh, okay. So what was really interesting is that when we released 2, it actually boosted the sales of the first one. And I think that's probably kind of common. So, like for instance, like movies or video games, like the second will bring attention to the first one in the series. Mm-hmm. So definitely saw a significant bump in the first. And then the same thing with the third is that when we released the third one, then that actually brought more light to the first and second one, and so forth. So in terms of the sales, like I'm actually quite happy with the numbers that I'm seeing. The first one is still by far the best seller.
Right.
For sure. But the second and third ones are performing as I'm very happy with the way they're performing in relation to that.
Oh, very good. Very good. Like I said, that's so good to hear, and there's such good things. And last question about Century, because we have this little video we wanted to show, and then we'll come back and speak some more to you and do some more of the show. Is there going to be a Gollum skin for the third game?
Yes, we are going to have the third Century with the Gollum theme. So that is.
When is the anticipation? Can you give us a date on that?
Well, I was told Gen Con.
Yeah, especially with how things are, I'm sure dates are out the window for almost anything right now.
Yeah.
So right now it's anyone's guess at this point. But the at least the motivation is there, the commitment is there to do it.
Oh, very good. Very good. Well, so happy to hear. Well, you know what, folks? We're going to come back and spend some more time with Emerson in just a second. But we have a video right now. Just wanted to show you. This is something we put together with folks, pictures of people from last year. So these are just a compilation of some pictures from the people at Meepleville from 2019. So, Grant, you want to go ahead and roll that?
Yep. Give me 1 second here. Oh, Emerson's giant again.
Oh, what am I doing again?
Nothing. Just I switched scenes here. Okay, I'm going to turn this video on now, and we'll be right back, guys. Now we are back. sort
All
of.
right. Man, I'm going to tell you that it's a little sad, isn't it, Grant, watching that video with all those smiling faces from Meepleville.
Oh,
Miss all.
absolutely.
It's yeah, I mean,
I think
it'll be
it's
so good.
Paul showed up and said hi just as he appeared in the video. It was like the perfect timing.
Paul Tompkins?
Yeah.
Oh, did he? Oh, hello, Paul, and Teresa. Say hi to her as well. Yeah, it's just all those people. I mean, I kept seeing face. Oh, I miss them. I miss them. I miss them. It'd just be so good to see everybody again. And I really hope that the governor, at least, Sisolak, comes up with what we're going to be able to do, right, in a couple weeks.
Hopefully so. Hopefully so. And again, they don't press it, don't do stuff before we should be doing it, but hopefully they come up with a plan and get something locked in so people can at least plan on what to do with the coming weeks and months and all that.
Oh, no, absolutely. We're going to go ahead and we're going to make sure that we're following all these standard protocols, as far as distancing, sanitizing, all that kind of stuff. We're not going to jump the gun or do anything because, I mean, after all, the most important thing is everybody's safety through this whole thing. So,
Tim, you had a quick shout out, and then if you want to let people know who our guest is, and we'll move on into this.
Sounds very good. All right, so folks, I just wanted to go ahead and mention in our opening theme, the music to that kind of really funky synth music was designed by Keith Presley, who's been a longtime member of Meepleville, and we hope you're doing well, Keith, you and Elizabeth. Thank you so much for that music, for doing our intro theme for that, and Keith is a great guy, great gamer, and we'll hopefully see him again soon. So right now, what we're doing is we're talking about some things we found on the internet this week. And I guess the first thing you have up there now, Grant, is I found a thing with 6 free games you can play on the website for social distancing.
Yep.
Have you gone and looked at these? Because I have.
I haven't. This was your thing. The first one I see up here is Codenames. That would be...
Yes.
Go ahead.
Now the main site, I wasn't quite sure how to get in, but that one that I think it was Steve mentioned last week, Horse Paste, or might have been somebody else.
Yeah.
I went and tried that. That was pretty good. And the other one, I couldn't quite figure out either. So I couldn't, yeah.
I'm sure these sites all work.
I'm sure they do. Yeah, there was another one called Scribble.
Scribble.
.io.
Yep, Scribble's here.
Yeah. That was like Pictionary, where you had to you draw pictures and you had to be the first one to come in and guess. That was good. That was actually fun. I stayed on there for a little while playing that game, actually. Oh, good. You have it right there. Yep. So Scribble.io, for somebody like me who's not that computer literate, that works very well. I really enjoyed that. I had a fun time doing that. That would be a really great game to play with your friends because it works good. And again, it works so somebody like me can go on and do it right away. What was the next one?
Avalon. And also really quick, I'm putting the link to this website over in the chat right now. So if anybody wants to check these out, the link is over there in chat. And so yeah, the next one we had on here was Avalon. And this is one, last Friday we had our game night. We had 8 or so people join us on Avalon. So this one did work and we all got in there playing Avalon a little bit.
Yes. And I know you're not a big fan of Avalon, but with that being said, you have to admit that was a pretty good interface. The game
Yeah, it worked really well.
Yeah, so that's really, really good. If you like Avalon, that site is fantastic. So go ahead and check that one out. What's next?
The next one down was Broken Picture Phone. That's another one I don't know anything about.
Yeah, that's another one I had a little bit of trouble with. So I couldn't quite get into that one. Couldn't quite figure out how that worked. So again, it might just be me not trying to,
Oh, I see.
Not being able to understand it.
And it's supposed to be similar to Telestrations, where you like get a picture and a word, a picture, word, picture, word, and you go back and forth.
Okay. All right. And then the last one down, I believe, was
a fake artist.
Fake artist.
Yep, a fake artist.
Yes, and that one worked fine. Like I said, somebody very simple like me was able to get in there and play it with no problem. So those are just some games. Like I said, Grant put the link into the comments, so you can go ahead and try those out. And how about you, Emerson? You've been finding any good sites on the internet that you can play with social distancing?
Oh, well, actually, we've been experimenting with Tabletop Simulator.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yep.
Tabletop Simulator and Tabletopia. I believe we have Foundations of Rome set up on Tabletopia.
Already?
Yes.
Wow, congratulations.
I just got a teaser picture from Robert Geislinger. So he showed me a screenshot of Foundations of Rome with all the models and everything, the 3D models imported into Tabletopia. And we've also been working on modules for Metal Gear Solid for Tabletop Simulator.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah, I'm kind of sad. Tabletop Simulator was on sale like last week or the week before for like half
That's
off,
right. Yeah.
and I didn't grab it. I was like, I don't know why I didn't grab it. I just didn't think about it. But yeah, that's definitely one of the really good ones to get on.
It's worth getting if for the only reasons that you could literally flip the table, flip the virtual table in there.
Yeah. So is the Tabletopia version of Metal Gear going to be out before the actual hard copy?
Actually, we've been doing it just so that we can do playtesting.
Yeah.
So it's more for as a mechanism for playtesting and also like blind playtesting and so forth. So
Okay.
yeah, we're trying to put a little bit more polish into some of the mechanics that we have, and just to get things a little bit more thoroughly tested. It's a very don't want to say a complicated game, but it has a lot of moving parts and lots of different scenarios that we want to make sure that each one is well balanced.
Very cool.
Oh, very good. Yeah, we talked about a lot about those Tabletopia and Simulator.
Yep.
And we also played. What do we play? We played on Board Game Arena last week, Grant, for the game night.
Yep, we've done that too.
Six Nimpt and some other games. Yeah. Oh, very
A
good.
bunch out there. My next little thing to show off here, really quick, for everybody that is waiting on your $1,200 stimulus check from the IRS, they do have a new web portal that came out today. If you have not received your money from there, you can go on this website and it will tell you your expected, like where they're at in the process of getting that money to you. I know everybody's situation is just kind of different, so whether you're hurting for money or not, I just thought I'd give a quick shout out to a new little thing that's up, just so people can kind of see.
Right. I went and checked that out. It said you did have to have your 2018 and 19 tax returns.
It says you may need. So like when I went through and did it, and it said my payment was posted as of today, and I actually did get my payment as of today. I didn't have to type in any other information outside of my standard, like social security number, that type of stuff. I didn't need to go find back tax information. It was really quick, painless.
Oh, Steve got his also. I didn't get mine yet. I don't think.
Yeah, they're coming through. So again, just another way for people to check out, just if anybody's in a bad situation.
Okay, yeah, very good. Yeah, go check that out. Try to get that money in. So that's really good. Okay, well, next what I have up there is the NPR Tiny Desk. Do you know about this, Emerson?
No, I've never heard of this.
Yeah. So, are you a big music fan, by the way?
I mean, I enjoy music. I don't follow it though.
Because what NPR Tiny Desk is, if you go to it's on YouTube channel, right, Grant? You go in there and you look at their videos, and what you get to do is you just get to watch a lot of bands literally at a tiny desk. So Grant's got it right now, and I promise you, there is going to be somebody on there that you really like. And you're going to get to see them and hear them in a totally unique environment. It is fantastic.
Yep. Yeah. It's supposed to be a very like intimate setting. They do a lot of like different music on there. It's all acoustic stuff. They'll bring different people in. They'll do some spoken word. And there's people from like, they'll have contests for like brand new people that you've never heard of that are going to blow up over the next couple of years, to some of the biggest names in music have been on this. And then in addition to that, what I've noticed is since the lockdown started, they've switched to Tiny Desk home concerts. So they're still getting content from people that are basically sending it to them from their own personal homes. So they're still participating, doing it. So yeah, just great to hear some different music and different styles that you wouldn't normally hear.
Yeah, and the one that I did watch from at home, see, this is old school, somebody old like me, was Michael McDonald. Now, a lot of people may not know him. He used to be with the Doobie Brothers. He was also a solo performer too, but he's just so soulful. It was just so good to see him and hear him, and also new people, like I had mentioned before. So I went to the videos and I just put in by most watched. Who came up was this guy named Anderson .Paak. Have you heard about him, Emerson, by any chance?
I haven't.
I haven't either. He's a new guy, I guess. I listened to him. Man, he's got some really good stuff. But that was the #1 most watched video, a guy I had never heard of. So you get to really see a lot of unique people.
From 3 years ago, 48 million views on that video.
Yes, and also like Grant mentioned too, you get to see people, Grant, because we talked about this too, that you may have never heard of, and like the contest winners or indie people and stuff, and you're like, wow, they're really good, they're really unique. So it's really just a nice diversion to go there and just check out some really, really good music.
Yep. I just because I happen to just notice it, I see that T-Pain is on here. I really want to hear him without auto-tune on that because I bet he sounds vastly different.
Probably, yeah.
It's amazing. All right, up next on here, this is a link from Lorraine in our Discord. Lorraine was our head DM down at Meepleville, for anybody that didn't know. And she pointed out that Wizards of the Coast is giving away free material daily currently. So there is a link where you can go to get free Adventures League content. So any of you guys that are out there still trying to play D&D, just another nice thing from Wizards of the Coast, providing stuff for people to have access to, play something new, try to keep things together.
Yeah, and is it for different amounts of players? Do you know, or how does that work?
Most D&D stuff is. Anything can be scaled. Anybody that knows how to play D&D, you can scale it to any kind of player count. They're not really specific to that.
Okay.
They usually have like level ranges, and that's what people care about. So you can play with any number of people, whether you have one or two, up to a group of like 6, 7, 8, that type of stuff.
Oh, very good. All right. So what do I have on here next? Anything else to say about that, Grant?
Nope. Nice quick little shout out about some D&D stuff.
Yep. So this was an interesting thing. This was an article about games you could drop $1,000 on, and a lot of them were miniature based. So because of course you can spend a lot with miniatures. They had a couple of the Zombicides, a Kingdom Death Monster, Imperial Assault, but with those stimulus checks. You can go and buy yourself some games that are really, really overpriced.
Going all in on some of these, because it's a lot of these have just the expansion. So, yeah, like the Zombicide ones, those are just crazy. Kingdom Death.
Descent, right?
Yeah, that Descent's such an old game. There's just been so much stuff published for Descent at this point. So I can definitely see getting all into it. Cthulhu Wars, that's one I never actually jumped into. I don't think I've ever played Cthulhu Wars.
Oh, yeah. Remember Misty and Eric? And
Misty and Eric used to play it all the time.
Yeah, they were all in on that, too. They had all the miniatures, and she painted them. Like, fantastic. She did such a great job, yeah.
I do love, like, Kingdom Death, like, the initial buy-in is still, like, $400 for just the base game.
No kidding. And at, what was it, Gen Con last year? That line, like, opening day, I don't know if you happen to see that, Emerson, that from their booth went, like, almost the whole entire length of the, it was huge. It was unbelievable.
Wow, number one is Advanced Squad Leader.
And I think that's because it talks about all the additional materials that you can get. So if you were to sit there and try to buy all of the extra components that they've ever produced for this game, there's just so much out there. And I'm sure some of it is so hard to find that it's just expensive at this point.
It is, because that's an older game, right?
Yeah, 1985.
Yeah, it's been around a while, so.
There must be some context to it, because I was expecting number one to be Magic the Gathering, because I've spent thousands of dollars on Magic the Gathering cards.
It looks like they kept it to board games and not collectible games. I'm sure they made that distinction.
Oh, okay.
Oh, don't even. In my top 5 regrets of all time, selling my Magic collection back in 2008 is probably in that top 5 list. Like, I wish I just kept what I had at the time.
Yes.
That's on everybody's list, Grant.
Oh, no, a lot of people were smart and just kept it.
Yeah.
I will say there is a certain collection of games that we're not talking about at the moment that contains some Magic cards that I started to look through. I'm not sure if you paid attention to how much stuff was in there. I was like, ooh, is there anything good in here, Tim?
Oh, yeah, no, there isn't. But no, there's a lot of stuff. Yeah, I know. A lot of good stuff. All right, well, that's good. That's some of the stuff we found on the internet. So Grant has you got all those links up there, right, Grant?
Yep, everything got posted over to the Facebook chat, I think, except for this very last one. Sorry, let me get that one over there now.
Yeah, who is that, Mickey or Mikey? I'm sorry, he was saying he dropped $350 on Flashpoint.
I can't think of any one game, board game wise, that I've spent that much money on. I don't think I have any of the really big collectible ones. Like Emerson was saying, like Magic back in the day, I definitely spent a lot of money on. My big spenders have probably been more on the video game side of stuff. Just paying for like WoW subscriptions over the years was probably a lot of money.
Yeah,
Right.
oh,
Yeah.
that's true.
The one game I would have dropped a whole lot on, but I was very fortunate to get a great deal, was the War of the Ring Collector's Edition. So that game, if you look on Amazon, eBay, and stuff, is going for a few grand. So
Yeah. Wow. Wow, that's great. I think for me, looking over here, I would say it's probably X-Wing for me. So I think I'm in the no, it's probably more than that now. I'm going to say $700 to $800 range in terms of how much I invested into X-Wing.
now, when you say invested, are you
Yeah.
done with it, or are you still buying stuff?
Actually, I was interested in X-Wing 2.0, but I haven't bought everything for it yet. It's just that we haven't been playing it as much.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I remember I was very much into X-Wing, the original, the 1.0 rule set. So I was really into that. So I bought, I think, just about every ship.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
Very
I
nice.
think way 13 or 14, I think.
We definitely had some people at Meepleville that were those type of collectors that had just the full everything type
Yeah.
players down there.
Of course, you had to have multiple ships because if you wanted to run 3 TIE Defenders, you had to buy 3 of them and so forth. So I had multiples of ships as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
It can get quite expensive.
Yes. Yes, it can. Yes, it can.
We do not participate in a cheap hobby, that's for sure.
All right.
Yeah.
That's-
All right. So listen, let's talk a little bit more with Emerson. If we're done with that, are we have any more to talk about that?
Nope. That was it on
Okay.
that.
Yeah. So Emerson, I'd like to just talk to you a little bit more about your newest game coming out, Foundations of Rome, or I'll give you a choice, or maybe we can do both. Actually, would you like to talk right now about Metal Gear or Foundations of Rome?
let's go with Foundations of Rome because I think that one's the one that's more likely to be released earlier.
Okay.
Metal Gear we're still doing some development, so I think just chronologically, Foundations of Rome is more relevant.
Okay, so why don't you go ahead and for the viewers out there, just give a breakdown. What is Foundations of Rome? What kind of game is it? The mechanics, and just a basic little talk about it.
Oh, sure. Okay, so Foundations of Rome is actually a city building game where you are senators or very influential individuals in this particular period of time, and you are building out the city of Rome. So we've called it Foundations of Rome. It's unlike games such as, I'm just going to think of a game like Suburbia, where each person's building out their own city. This one is everyone is building one city, so you're working together, but you're also working against your opponents to try to get as much influence as possible. So it is a competitive game, and one of the big allures of the game are the 3D miniatures. So when you actually build out the city and you're done, you actually get to marvel at the city that you've built. So it's really it's got a great table presence. In terms of the mechanics, we try to keep it as simple as possible. So one of the mottos that we had was we wanted to try to make it as ticket to ride weight as possible.
Okay.
So on your turn, there's only 3 things that you can do. You can get money. You could spend that money to buy lots of land on the board. And the third thing that you can do is you could build a building on the lots of land that you have, or build over buildings that you have. So we try to keep it as simple as possible. And then the depth of the game is going to come in terms of how the buildings will interact with other players' buildings. So there are buildings that will take advantage of the buildings that are adjacent to them, and it doesn't have to be yours. So you could put a building down that takes advantage of the surrounding buildings, but those surrounding buildings could be from your opponents. So you could take advantage of where your opponents has placed buildings. So that's where the interesting aspects of the game are. That's where the depth of the game is.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds really, really cool. I know I was a backer right away, of course. Yeah, I was really excited. So as far as the design goes and how they did like the vertical box, and if I remember correctly, the Kickstarter with the shelves and stuff.
Yes.
Whose idea was that?
Okay, I would say I think that's Walter Barber, who is sort of one of the project managers for this. I think that was his idea to create the shelves so that the setup time is negligible. So you open the box and you pull out the shelves. You hand everyone their shelf, and inside that shelf contains everything that you need. You just lay out the board, shuffle the cards, and you're done with the setup. So it's just a few minutes to set up the game, and you're already ready to play. So he really lowered that barrier to opening the box to starting play, he's really lowered that margin to the bare minimum it could possibly be by using this setup. So I think it's fantastic.
Does that
It does increase the height of the box itself, but I think it's a sacrifice, but I think it might be worthwhile.
does that box then store on the side?
Oh, so each one should have a lid. So what I was told is that each tray has a lid. So even if you rolled it down a set of stairs, that everything should remain intact.
Very nice. And that's, again, just from our game library being as massive as it is and us having to keep everything on its side, and I'm sure people's personal collections, that's one thing we know is where there's so many games that just come and we have to immediately rip out the inserts, put everything in bags, because the inserts just don't make sense when you get the vertical storage going. So as long as it keeps that, that's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. I know one of the big complaints was that it takes up an entire calyx shelf just for the box.
One of the individual squares, you mean, an entire one?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay. Well, that's all right. That's not too bad, as long as it fits in there, because some games don't. So.
Yeah.
Some people had asked, does it fit in a calyx? We said yes, but it would take up the entire cell of the calyx.
Yeah, no, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah. Oh, cool. That's really good. And the official release date is when?
Oh,
You asking for dates again here, Tim?
I'm sorry.
I don't know.
Forget that date. When am I getting my copy? That's all when do they deliver the Kickstarter?
I think it was supposed to be before Gen Con, but I'm not sure. No, actually, no, I'm sorry. I take that back because I believe that on the Kickstarter page, the date that they had there was January of 2021.
Okay.
So.
And just because you had mentioned it, is there a chance it will show up on Tabletopia before the actual release?
Oh, that I'm not sure because I believe we were setting those modules up on Tabletopia and Tabletop Simulator for playtesting purposes.
Gotcha.
I'm not sure if those are destined for public release.
An actual release and that makes sense.
Oh, very good. Well, really looking forward to Foundations of Rome, Emerson. So yeah, unfortunately, I did not have a chance to try it at Dice Tower West. I know a lot of people did, and they loved it. Heard nothing but great things about it. So I can't wait to get mine.
Well, thank you, and thank you for backing it. That's I really appreciate the support.
Oh, of course, absolutely.
Don't feel special. He backs everything.
Too much.
No, that legitimately looked good.
Yeah, I do back too much stuff. I don't even a lot of the stuff I back. I won't even play. I don't even know, but I know. I got a problem.
This is what he will actually use, and not just sit on a shelf and shrink wrap for the next 3 years until I do something with it.
Yes, that is one I actually use. Unlike my first edition Kingdom Death Monster, which is still in shrink wrap, sitting on the shelf over there, which I will probably never open. So yes, it will be.
You and your wife have nothing but time, man.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. All right. So, Emerson, you are welcome to join in here, and I'd like you to maybe throw a couple of little topics in there. You can if you like. But Grant and I have compiled a list of the top 5 games we dislike, but everyone else loves.
Okay.
All right, so we'll talk about all, and I guess you feel free to go ahead and give your thoughts and give your opinions, and whether you agree, disagree, or whatever your little thoughts are.
Sure.
So, would you like to go first or second, Grant?
You can go first, just 'cause I think it's funny, which your first one is. Give me 1 second here. Let me.
You think it's funny?
Yeah, it was already mentioned on this stream.
No, you're thinking that was my fourth one.
Oh, it is your fourth one. All right. Well, we'll get to it.
All right, so here we go. The first game that I dislike that everybody else seems to love is Welcome to. Now, the reason I am not a big fan of Welcome to, and again, don't get me wrong, it's a good game. And again, I will say, let me look over my list again, that every single one of these games on my list is a good game. Some of them are great games.
Absolutely.
They're just not for me.
Fully agree with that sentiment. Yeah, these are not bad games at any means. All of these are very good games that just are personal. For whatever reason, we had different situations or different stuff come up that we just didn't end up liking them.
Correct. And the reason that I don't like Welcome to is because I like playing games to be with people. I don't necessarily have to have like interaction, or I don't necessarily need to do that. For example, like the Euro games that are like Agricola is just your own board. Those are fine. I like being able to watch other people, see what they're doing, learn from them, try to follow along or all that kind of stuff. And I feel with a lot of roll and writes, especially something like Welcome to, that it's so separated, really just so individual. I have no idea what anybody else is doing at all. And people can make mistakes. I've made mistakes. People can do things. I just don't get a good feeling playing a lot of rolling rights simply because I can't see what people are doing.
Yeah. Can absolutely agree. So I think you cut out there, Tim.
Oh, I was just going to ask Emerson what his thoughts are about rolling rights or Welcome to.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, I was smiling a bit there because Welcome to is actually my favorite of the roll and write genres.
Oh, is it?
Have you got to play the Vegas edition of it yet?
No, I did not. I didn't know there was a Vegas.
There's a Welcome to New Vegas something, and I heard it's a lot more complicated. I haven't had a chance to try it yet. I've been looking forward to that one because I did hear that it added a lot more to it. Because they have a bunch of other skinned ones out, like a Halloween one and a holiday one and some other stuff. But the Vegas one, the actual mechanics were supposed to be a little bit different and a little bit more complicated.
I see. Yeah, I do enjoy Welcome to, but I do have a particular opinion about the whole roll and write genre itself, which might be going off on a tangent. But I feel like a lot of times the roll and writes, if you take it and you take the roll and write aspect and you put like nice components, I think some of those roll and writes would be a fantastic game that actually had really nice components and just take that solid gameplay and just make it to where it's not all about writing things on a sheet of paper.
Right. I would agree with that as well. Yep.
Yeah, and you see so much of it nowadays that roll and writes got so popular. So many people are just like, well, I have this game, let's make a roll and write version, and they're going down that direction. Whereas I think there's some roll and writes that you could turn into a much better actual game with what their base was.
Absolutely.
Well, over here, my number 5 on this list is Fuse. I threw Fuse on there because this just kind of encompasses the real-time genre of board games. I'm just not a fan. It's kind of similar to what Tim just said of like not knowing what other people are doing and people making mistakes. I personally just greatly dislike that. I like knowing what's going on. I like making sure everybody's playing correctly and all that. And when you get those real-time games and it's just chaos and stuff is happening, by the end, if you're like, yeah, we won, I'm like, well, did you do it right? I don't know. I don't ever get a good feeling from most real-time games. Now, I will say the follow-up to Fuse, which is Flatline. I believe it's Flatline. Set in the hospital. Now, that one I liked much more because the real-time element was just one of the 6 phases of the game. Like, phase 4 was the real-time element, and it was like a minute long. So you had planning both before and after. And so, like, when you break down the real-time to just one little part, then I think it's a much better mechanic in a game. But a game where the entire mechanic is real time, I'm out. I'm probably not going to enjoy it. Again, a lot of people love that chaos, love the quickness. It's just not personally for me.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Yeah, so I think real-time games, they do have, I know that it's, as a designer, when we introduce a real-time aspect to it, we know we are limiting our audience by doing so, because there's a group of people who love the real-time aspect of it, but there's a lot of board gamers who don't want the pressure of a real-time element. They like the relaxing aspect of it. So I totally understand where that feeling of like that time pressure is going to detract from your experience. So I do enjoy like real-time games, such as like Captain Sonar would be a good example of a game that I really enjoy, but I can only take spurts of it. So I cannot do like an hour-long marathon of these real-time games because it does take a lot of energy out of you.
Yeah, and that one, like, just getting a group of 8 people that know how to play the game well to even be able to attempt the real-time version of Captain Sonar,
Yeah.
It is a lot.
And you know what? Also, with real-time games, a lot of
People
people
are
seem to
not-
get real anxious.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of anxiety involved there.
There is. People get real anxious. Um, all right, so let me see. Number 4. Yes, this is what we were talking about earlier, and definitely want to hear your opinion, Emerson.
All right.
Uh, it is X-wing.
Oh,
Yes. Now, there are a couple reasons for this. Number one, I am not a sci-fi fan as far as that kind of stuff, like Star Wars, Star Trek, and all that kind of stuff. I like science fiction, like Jules Verne, H.G. Wells, Twilight Zone, that kind of stuff. But X-wing, it's just not for me. I don't like it. It just, I don't know. It just does nothing, absolutely nothing for me. And but again, X-wing, I know, at being in the business as a store owner and all that kind of stuff, I understand it is a fantastic, really, really, really great game, really great game. It's just not something I enjoy at all.
well, it definitely has dice, and I know that dice can be a divisive topic for some because no matter how, and the one person that I do play most often with, he tends to have very bad luck with rolling the dice. And I've admitted to him on many occasions that if our dice rolls were about the same, he would beat me every time because he is really good at outmaneuvering me. But I am just way luckier with dice, and sometimes it's better to be lucky than it is to be good.
Absolutely.
That is true.
Absolutely.
That is very, very true.
But that said, though, and I know it's not painting a good picture for some who are thinking about X-Wing, but one of the things about having those dice was it made those memorable moments, though. So it creates those little stories in your head where, Darth Vader is really trying to destroy Luke Skywalker, and Luke Skywalker just seems to roll way better.
Yo.
And
Right.
just creates those stories, and that's part of the fun is that you can, you create those stories with that theme in mind too.
I mean, you just described exactly why people play D&D or any other dice roller, which is the same thing as the miniatures game to some degree. Like, it's for that extra story. It's not just the game itself. Like, yeah, you can plan out your best strategy ever, but sometimes you're just going to get unlucky, or you can be doing terribly and just get that lucky roll and be like, oh, huge comeback like that. Those moments are what make that fun.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
My number 4 on here is another one you briefly mentioned earlier, Emerson, and that's going to be Dominion. I find Dominion to be so stale and boring, especially, and I think a big part of this, honestly, is with games out like Clank. I just think there's so many better takes on the deck builder mechanic that when you go back to Dominion and it's just these 10 cards in a market and that's your whole game, and there's some people that are like, oh, that combination of 10 cards, I know exactly which ones to buy. Like, it's just so stale and the same. Like, yeah, you can buy the expansions and mix those in, and then you'll get a different game and a different feel for it. But that basic little just 10 card market just seems so simple to me nowadays compared to what has been done or is being done with the deck builder genre. That, yeah, I will never go back and play Dominion or any of those, the ones that are based off of just that, like the really basic versions of this. Not for me.
Right, absolutely. And again, Grant, I know we have to reiterate it in case people are coming in late or whatever, or misinterpreting things. These are all great games, really good games. And I'm the same way. Dominion, I know, is a great game. People love it. It's really good. But it's kind of like with X-Wing, like you say, it just doesn't do anything excite me either. You're right when you said like Clank and things that have a little bit more immersive, a little bit more theme. But yeah, Dominion, I feel the same way about.
Yeah.
I feel like you guys are picking these specifically because I do enjoy Dominion. In fact, I think I don't know if it's coincidence, but it's weird that among my group of friends, like I always kind of uphold Dominion, in that everyone else seems to have gotten over Dominion, and they say it's stale and everything like that. But and I always use like Dominion and say like, what is it, like expert version of Thunderstone as an example. I say, well, if you want that experience, you take those your Kingdom cards, you just shuffle them, or if you want, say, something more like Ascension, right? Take your Dominion cards, just shuffle them in a big deck, lay them out, in the same kind of a format, and have you basically have Ascension in that case, or you basically have, if you shuffle them and you create little stacks of decks, you basically have the Epic Thunderstone. So it's
There you go.
the core of it is there. But there is one saving grace for Dominion that, from a mechanic standpoint, it had the most interesting mechanism where the victory point cards are the ones that you win the game with those victory point cards, but it's also the thing that it clogs up your deck. So it is a built-in, what we call a negative feedback loop.
Mm-hmm.
So the better you're doing, the more your deck becomes a little bit more inefficient in the way that it's going to be generating points for you. And I thought that was the really, really interesting mechanism in there. But I also know it's one aspect that people don't like, that feeling of their deck getting slower. And so a lot of other designers have actually taken out that aspect from the game. But that was actually the one aspect that kind of balanced the game a little bit more. Otherwise, most of the deck builders are a very slow, each one has a very slow snowballing effect. It was a tongue twister. As a slow snowballing effect.
Mm-hmm.
The rich get richer effect there. And so because of that, like I always think highly of Dominion as, one of the better deck building games out there. It was the first one, and it's also, I think, the one that has like the most interesting balanced mechanic. And I understand it can get stale, but I think there's different ways that you can mix up Dominion to make it a fresh game.
Oh, I'm sure. Absolutely.
Oh, of course. And that's why it's so good to have, differing opinions, because you're going to have that no matter the greatest game, the worst game, whatever. There's always going to be different opinions, and it's good to hear both sides, why people like them, why they don't. Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic.
I apologize for being the contrarian in this conversation.
No, not at all.
We have ridiculous opinions on board games.
Yes, we do. Absolutely. Yeah, when you're around them every day and that's what you do, of course you're going to make opinions, right? And also, I just want to go ahead and mention real quick before I get to number 3, if anybody's coming in late joining us, the third person you see with us today is Emerson Matsuuchi. He is the designer of the Century Spice Road trilogy, Reef, Spectre Ops, the new Foundations of Rome coming out, a tremendous Kickstarter, and also Metal Gear, which will be coming out later this year too. So that's who that third person up there is, joining Grant and I. So going to number 3. Now, speaking of dice, this is why this is my third. Again, great game. This is what got me into, as I'm sure thousands of others, this world, the Euro world of gaming. That is Catan. Now, because
you're just killing Emerson here, man.
I know we are. Now, again, it's because, and again, like I said, this was my first love. So this is what got me into it. When I first played Catan, I blew my mind. I was like, this is great. That's all I wanted to do, and I played it to death. But as you move on, you kind of grow up, and you're past it. But like we were talking about before, right? With the dice, we were talking about in X-Wing. I don't mind dice when there's combat, because that is true combat. If you shoot a gun, you're not always going to hit. You may miss, it may go wide, you may nick, or whatever. So you're never quite sure. So when it comes to rolling dice with war games and stuff, I have no problem. I think it's thematic. That's the way it should be. But with Catan, to me, it seems like that's just all you like. There's no point. You just roll dice, and it's just so random that to me it just takes away the gaming part.
This almost made my list as well. I definitely have no desire to play this anymore. Honestly, I won't get into the story. One of my most negative experiences ever with board games came from Catan years and years ago. Somebody's dad just made it the most unfun board game I've ever played. But that's beside the point. That had nothing to do with the game itself. You
shouldn't be playing games with people's dads, Grant.
We were teenagers. I don't know what to tell you. He was super into board games, and he was just terrible. But beside that, again, I know it's still one of the biggest names. So many people want to come in. It's going to get somebody into gaming still for what it is. So it definitely has its merits are massive. But yeah, for me personally, it takes a lot to get me to play that game. I did play it last summer. I think was the last time I did play it with somebody that I finally got talked into it. But it takes a lot, that's for sure.
Yeah. All right, contrarian Emerson, go ahead.
I don't want to. I can go on and on about Catan, because I think that was also the game that also got me into modern board games as well. So it's I had gosh, this was like maybe a month or so ago. Is a good friend of mine. He absolutely hated it, and I was trying to convince him that it wasn't a bad game because we were trying to. There's a couple of our friends that have never played it, and I wanted them to experience it. And he was convinced that no, they should move on, not even think about it. We have way better games. And I said no, it's still a good game. So I think we spent a good 20 minutes or so just going back and forth, and I was trying to defend Catan in this conversation. And he was saying, well, no, you've played like Dice Forge, and you've played Underwater Cities, you played Lords of Waterdeep. You don't need to play Settlers of Catan. I can't remember exactly which games he was mentioning, but and I was saying, well, no, it's there's some really unique aspects in Catan that other games don't have. And I think Catan did negotiation in an interesting way, to where you can't so the designer created an environment where you cannot get all the resources that you need, or it's incredibly difficult for you to get all the resources that you need, especially in the beginning. So he made I think he did a brilliant job of getting people to the table with negotiation where it's going to benefit. You will benefit equally with someone that you can trade with, as long as that is an equal bartering chip. Now, the interesting part is that because of the way scarcity works in the game and so forth, is that even though on the surface all the resources have like this very similar value, but just the way that the dice come out determines the scarcity and plentifulness of certain resources. So, and it can shift and so forth in the game. So I really do think that there was a nice elegance to the core of the game there. And I think that for people and I totally get that some people are burned out from it. They've played it to death. And, after you've played, 20 games of it, you've basically seen a lot of the things that the game offers. It's not like it's going to give you any new surprises or things like that. But I think I appreciate it because I think that there's a lot of mechanisms in there that were very, very elegantly put together.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
So, and I'm sorry I'm being that contrarian.
No, not at all. Again, like I said, one's cup of coffee is another's cup of tea, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A game you just mentioned that should be on this list that I just completely forgot about is Dice Forge. I greatly dislike Dice Forge. Totally forgot about that game, or otherwise it would have been on this list.
Oh, yeah.
So, Grant, excuse me one second. As you go to your number 3, I'm just going to step off for a second. I'll be right back in a minute, okay?
Sure. Jumping over to my number 3 here. This one, again, is a little unfair, and I'll talk about why. So my number 3 on this list is viticulture. Viticulture has the unfortunate aspect that the first and probably only time I played this game was with a buddy that had the Essentials Edition, and he had the Tuscany map, and so we jumped right into some of the extras. And again, I had such a bad first experience. And I kind of talked to Tim about this with what my job is, with how I learn games or play games. I really only experience games once or twice, and then I move on to the next game. There's plenty of games that I'll learn the rules to and not even get a chance to play, that I only sit there and teach the game. And so when a game hits me with a really bad, negative first experience, I have a very hard time coming back to it, just because my time is so limited, or learning a new game. And viticulture just happened to hit all of those perfect negative notes, that it was the most ridiculous bad experience ever. So for anybody that doesn't know, viticulture is a worker placement game. And if you know anything about worker placement games, your workers are the number of actions that you get to do. And in my very first game of viticulture, in like round 1, the guy that was showing me the game happened to luck draw into these cards that got him 2 bonus workers permanently in the first round of the game, which is wildly unfair. And I played my best strategy possible, and I knew I lost. From that first round, the game was lost, and there was no way I could possibly win. And it was just, luck of the card draw. But it sucks that since it is a Euro-style game with what I describe as Munchkin-esque nonsense card draw in it, it just so detracts for me. I can't I like randomness. I don't mind that type of stuff in games, but that combination just hit so poorly for me with viticulture that, I don't think I'd ever go back to it. I just think there's other worker placement games that I would rather play before this. So it sucks that it was such a bad first experience, because I don't think it's a bad game. I think I just got really unlucky with my playthrough. And I know that. I know it's a good game. And yeah, this is one maybe I will go back and give another chance to at some point. But real bad first experience is why it's on my list right here.
Yeah, and sometimes that can happen in games, right? Just one really, really bad experience can turn you off from the game forever, right?
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Absolutely. I've never actually played Viticulture, so I can't be on this one. But it is a game that I do want to play, though. I've heard so many good things about this game.
Again,
it is.
Absolutely, yeah. I will not say it's a bad game in any way. I just got, like I said, very unlucky with the circumstances, and yeah, don't design worker placement games with bonus worker cards that easily. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. All right, so my number 2 coming up the list. And again, another great game. I'll go ahead and talk about some of the pros and cons afterwards, but it is Coup. Now, I know a lot of people like Coup. It gets played a lot at the cafe, actually. It's probably one of the top games, which I don't think made our list, but it does get played a lot. People like it. It's a good game. A lot of fun. I don't like the just total complete randomness sometimes of whether people just want to die and guess and don't really care, aren't really strategizing. So I guess my thing about Coup, and I guess it's with certain games, it's one of those kind of things where it's really dependent on your group, I think, for me.
I can easily see that for sure. Any type of those social deduction games, if you're playing with the wrong people, it's not going to be a fun experience.
Right. And Coup, to me, seems it's a little bit too easy to make it not fun, where people just like, okay, you're lying. Oh, I died. Okay, so what? I lost the person. You're lying? I don't believe you. Oh, I lost another person. Okay, I'm out of the game. You know what I mean? It just it's just too easy for that. And to me, again, if you're not playing with the right group, it can maybe not be that enjoyable.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's Coup is definitely a game that I've had less than good experiences with. I've had games where especially with like the player counts, that I'll only get one turn in the game, and then 2 people on the other side of the table just collude to just remove me from the game before it gets So I've had those experiences too, but it's the player elimination aspect of it that's a little bit of a downer, because I really have fun in the game. And sometimes I'll make my own fun because the game is just so short. Is that I've actually, at least with our group, everyone always claims to be the Duke, and so I got so tired of that every time, like even if it costs me the game, is that very first turn I always call out everyone that's a Duke. So it's gotten people to be more honest in future games, and I found that made the game interesting. But at least I found my fun is that I got to set that sort of the meta of the game, that it's going to be dangerous to say you're the Duke, because I might just randomly call you out on it.
Right.
All right, my number 2 over here, again, massively popular. So many people love this game, and this one is probably my legitimate number 1, and that is Terraforming Mars.
Oh.
I am not a fan of Terraforming Mars. I went as far as to, I gave it a really bad review on Board Game Geek, and the designer emailed me, is like, did you play it correctly, this and that, and I sent him back a big 4-page long this. I have reasons. It's literally 2.5 hours of multiplayer solitaire. I don't care what people do on their turns. I'm just sitting there doing my little Tableau builder, and other people do stuff that I don't care about, and I'm like, why am I sitting here? Why? And it just doesn't click with me at all. I had zero fun with that game. It was so boring. Everybody loves this game. I cannot stand it.
Isn't that funny? Because I feel the same way. Like when I brought up X-Wing before, or even Catan, or we're bringing up Dominion, a lot of these games, how for us it can just do absolutely nothing, do not like it, but yet we are the only ones, right? Everybody else loves the game.
And then I didn't mention, and even the people that like the game, those fiddly player boards in the original game were nonsense. I know they had to cut costs somewhere, and that's why they didn't release like the nicer, like how Broken Token has the really nice one that lets the cubes like move around and lock into place. Not having those in the base game, and somebody messed that up. If you just tap the table and half your board shifted, and you're like, oh, I think I had 10 gold. I'm like, well, did you have 10 gold or did you have 8 gold? Because that matters. Oh, so that's frustrating. True. That frustration, I think, is the reason I don't like that game. So many little things.
What are your thoughts, Emerson?
With Terraforming Mars, it's I'll tell the story of like the first time I played is that I was really enjoying Terraforming Mars, and I thought, because I have a soft spot for like engine building games where you're getting stronger and stronger and able to get more and more resources. So I was having a lot of fun playing it, and I amassed all of these, like, I guess the green resource. So I amassed all this green resource, and then someone played a card to actually decimate all of it.
Oh, wow.
I looked at the cover and I thought, wait, I thought this was supposed to be a Euro game.
Nope.
And I was just at a loss of words. Like, what just happened? I thought I was playing a Euro game. So, but knowing that those cards exist made a really interesting dynamic in that, you have to kind of expect that things are going to get tossed in your direction if the perception that you're in the lead is present among the players. You're going to get hit with stuff.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And then that's another one. You mentioned the cards. So people that know every card in that deck, because it's such a massive deck of cards, like those people just inherently have an advantage. Another complaint I remember having, there needed to be an early age deck and a late age deck. I hated that the cards were just mixed together, and I get that they were trying to, like, you draw like a late game card and you're like, oh, well, you can plan for it. But it also is just that dead draw in your hand. I really wish they had just streamlined the game a little bit more and just gave you your early game cards. Everybody can do that thing, get their engine going, then get into the late game cards. Or even, so I've been playing Oceans recently, and they have a similar thing where there's 2 different decks, and there's like something triggers you being able to play the late game cards, but you have the option of drawing them earlier in the game, but then they fill up your hand. That's so much more interesting of a mechanic. Like, I think if Terraforming had done something like that would have fixed it. And everybody's like, oh, well, you can draft the cards, and drafting doesn't also fix the issue because you can still have bad draws. So there's a good game in there for sure. Just not for too many little things.
Yeah,
too many.
I agree. Terraforming Mars is a game I each time I play it, I do enjoy it, but it's not one of those games, not like some of the games I had mentioned that it gives me that feeling of an elegant design. So I think it's got a few little rough areas here and there, but every time I do play it, I do enjoy at least like the engine building aspect of it. And we may have changed sort of like the dynamic of what the designers wanted in the original game, because in our group, we actually removed all of the cards, like basically the red cards that smash, your opponent's engines, right? Or sort of like those take that style of cards. We've actually kind of removed them. And I know that probably sets the balance off a little bit. It might have a little bit more of a rich get richer type of an issue in there, but it was the way that we found it most enjoyable.
Okay. That's a good idea.
Yeah, I don't know. It may unbalance things, but I mean, a lot of times we just play to have the fun, and we all enjoy kind of like building up to see who built up the biggest thing, right? So that's where we got our enjoyment. So, but it may be unbalanced since the game was designed with those cards in mind.
Yeah.
Right.
And my last thing, I can't rag on this game enough. The public domain images that they used on those cards, because they had so many cards they needed to get pictures for. So the art is so all over the place. Like, some of them are like hand drawn, other ones are just like real pictures that they found on the internet. It's just so off-putting, and everybody sees those and goes like, "What?"
Yeah.
Little things.
That's funny.
See, I don't just blindly hate games. I have reasons here.
Okay, yes, you do. That's true. That's true. As long as they're justified.
Yes, all valid.
Yeah. So my number one. Now again, it's funny how what's going on and everything. How this is on the list, and this is about a certain necessarily genre, not necessarily about this game, but the number one game that I don't like that everybody loves is Pandemic. Now, again, Pandemic is a great game. It's probably, I mean, I think you guys would both agree, the number one played cooperative game, right?
So, yeah.
That people probably learn and play the most or whatever. So again, it's a great game, good game. I'm not speaking, it's just me personally. I don't like cooperative games where there is full information. Now, Emerson, have you designed a cooperative game by any chance?
Metal Gear Solid is actually my first cooperative game that I'm designing.
Oh, is it? Okay, so let me ask you a couple of questions. I'm going to ask you two questions, and this is, and let me see your response, and I'll tell you why I don't like cooperative games. Which, unfortunately, Pandemic is representing the cooperative game genre. Number one, would you agree that each turn there is an optimal move when you have completely open information?
Right. So with Pandemic, I think it is easy to see what are your optimal moves because you know that the deck that you're drawing the infections from, you know what are the possibilities of it. So you can sort of math out, okay, well, what would be the optimal move or optimal set of moves? So
right.
I agree with you there, yes.
Okay, so that's the first thing, and you did say yes. Yeah. Second question is, if you know the optimal move, should you say it?
Oh, this one's a much more difficult question because, well, I think it depends on people's stance on what is the object of the game. If the object of the game is to have fun, right, then divulging that information, will it detract from the fun? Will it add to the fun? So that would be your determiner of whether you should divulge that information or not. But some people play to win. And for those people, they would obviously say, yes, you need to divulge this information because they want to win. So, and a lot of times the conflict comes in is that you're going to have two types of people at the table. You're going to have those who want to win at the table, and you're going to have those who want to have fun. They don't care if they win, but they want to just try their best or get into the theme of it and so forth. And so it's really the headbutting between those two groups that always causes that whole issue with the one person knowing what the optimal moves is. They're going to be called out as the alpha gamer or the quarterbacker and so forth. And that's where always that friction comes in, I should say.
No, and I would agree with that 100%. So again, I have to clearly delineate cooperative games with full open information as opposed to cooperative games with hidden information. For example, one of my most played games every single year that I love, Hanabi. I love that game. I love The Game, that little card game, The Game. Who was it? Wolfgang Wurst had that game, Fuji. I played it a couple times. I liked that too. It was a cooperative game with hidden information. Yeah. So cooperative games with hidden information, or even like you were talking about Plaid Hat. What's it called?
Dead of Winter.
Dead of Winter. There you go. I think it's fantastic because you have that trader. So everybody doesn't know everything. So with that being said, I just want to make sure the delineation is clear. Cooperative games like Pandemic, which are fully open, and like you said, Emerson, where you can know what's in the deck, what may potentially come, you can sort of dig a little bit deeper. And I just do not like games like that.
I can totally sympathize with that too. Is that I think Pandemic is definitely one of the first. It was definitely a pioneering game. Now I know technically Reiner Knizia came up with cooperative games earlier than Pandemic, but I think Pandemic really put cooperative games on the map.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
and it's become one of the most popular, most played cooperative game out there, and perhaps if, like, say, Matt Leacock, were to design it, knowing how a lot of the dynamics come out from it, I think he would probably take those things into consideration if he were to design. He's a very talented, very, very smart guy.
Oh yes.
So I'm, knowing how group dynamics work, if he were to do like a Pandemic second edition, I think he is going to take some of those things into account and so forth. But I think it really is more of a group dynamic disparity more than like the mechanics of the game, because like Pandemic is a really, really interesting game in that because that deck is shuffled, you don't always have 100% information. Like you don't know exactly what might be coming out. But you're absolutely right in that everyone has that same information though. So it's not like anyone has any different information or anyone has anything specific that they can do. But by the asymmetric powers also help a little bit in that each person has something that they could do specifically that makes them a little bit more suited to different tasks. And I think that helps them with that feeling of empowering each player to be a little bit different. So it's not so much that everyone has the exact same capabilities. So everyone just feels like a pawn in the same game.
True, but there's still, you can still kind of say, oh wait, your ability, you should do that, you should go here, we should move
Right.
To me, it just was, especially with pandemic, it just really seems like there is going to almost always be an optimal move that is there.
Right, yes. Yeah. I think the game would be most interesting if each person thought that it wasn't so clear what is the optimal move, and each person had a little bit of information that other people didn't have, which led them to the conclusion that, hey, this might be the optimal move. So you have player A who says option one he thinks is the best option. You have player B who thinks, well, option two would be a better option because he has slightly different information than player A and so forth. And that I think that would make a much more interesting dynamic, and I think that would alleviate some of the detractors for you in terms of the whole cooperative game experience.
Oh, absolutely, it would. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I think you're spot on. I think Pandemic it's a phenomenal game, but it is also one that you want players with that same mindset going into it. Either you guys are going to all work together to play to win, or you're all going to work together or you're going to play the game to have fun.
To have fun, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And I'll close this one out real quick. I won't talk about this one nearly as much as I did Terraforming Mars here. Tim already knows what this one is, my number one game. And real quick, because Anthony has been waiting patiently in chat. Sadly, Anthony, I am not going to call out Werewolf here. Werewolf didn't actually make this list as much as you thought it was going to. My number one is going to be Agricola. I know, and this is Tim's favorite game, and I always tell people at work, this is Tim's favorite, and this is my least favorite, and that is the epitome of board gaming. Just, again, never had good experience with it. It was just a really slow game. I always tell people, nobody really wins. You just check to see who lost the least at the end, and they call that person the winner. That's how I feel when I play a game of Agricola. It's just a mean, punishing game. I'm probably, and like with viticulture on here earlier too, I'm probably not just a huge worker placement guy, and so that's probably fair to say that that's just not my type of game anyway. But so Agricola just kind of encompasses that dry, kind of slow Euro that I like some Euros, but it's just really specific what I like, and stuff like this I just have no interest in playing. Just so slow and boring to me.
Hey, you know what, Grant? Every single thing you said, I agree with you 1,000%, but that is why I absolutely love Agricola.
Yep.
I love it because it's punishing, it's slow, it's grueling. All the things you said are the exact reasons why I love it.
Yep.
I think I'm sitting in Tim's camp here in that, like, the first several times that I played it, I stressed out in the game. Right? You're always stressing out that you're not going to have enough to feed your family. And the thing is, if you play it with the mindset that this is your family, and you start to name your little discs, your names. Little Timmy was just born, but we don't need it. All those things. Like, you start to really, really stress out.
Grant Jr. dies a lot.
But after that first several games, and then you get to a state where, like, when you play, like, you can actually see you're getting better at that game. There was this really satisfying feeling that, hey, look, I'm actually growing a profitable farm here. Look, I'm actually, raising more, like, I'm getting more food than I need now, and so forth. So, but the first several games, it was super punishing. But once you got to a state where, like, you were able to, you could see that you were getting better as a player, that was an incredibly addicting experience.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But like I said, Grant, everything you said, I 1,000% agree with you.
Yeah,
and that's actually
so
a really interesting point that Emerson just made, and that's probably why I don't like it. is because I never put that time in, Emerson, in any one game. Again, there's too much out there. I'm moving on to the next thing so quickly. I never have the time to sit there and try to master a game. We have friends and other coworkers that do that, where they're like, yeah, I put 150 plays in. Like, this is how you do the best of this game. And I'm like, cool. I've played it like 4 times. I know how to play it. I understand the strategy, but I haven't taken the time to fully master it just because I just don't have the time, especially with those heavier Euros where trying to get multiple games in repeatedly would just take so long that I just haven't done that. And so that definitely leads to that exact thing too, that since I didn't have that chance to put that time in, I'm never going to hit that point of really enjoying it.
Yeah. But like Tim said, everything that you had said actually resonated with me, because that's exactly how I felt. Is that the first couple times that we played, we were just saying who lost the least, right?
So
because we were all struggling. We were getting those beggar cards. We're like, oh, we're playing so poorly and everything like that. But but it's after those multiple plays, and you start to understand and you start to get better. Now, this was all we were playing Agricola probably at a time, because it is a fairly older game, and it wasn't like it is now where there's just so many good games that are out there. So, and it's really hard to get multiple plays on the same game because there are so many, and you want to try all of these games. So
that's absolutely true.
I'm finding that now that I'll play a game that I really like. I want to play more of, but it's just that there's always that excitement for these other games, and I have friends who bring new games and say, "Hey, I just got this. Let's play." And you always want to play the new shiny, so we don't get back to those games that we've played before as often as we like.
Yeah, that's very true. And like you said, since it is a little bit older game, the reason why I got kind of like a deep love for Agricola, like even though Catan was my first, so when I got in this world of gaming and I learned Catan, when I really sort of got into the Euro world and started finding out about Board Game Geek and all that kind of stuff, Agricola was number 1 on Board Game Geek. And I said, okay, well, you know what? I am going to become a gamer. I am going to learn the number 1 game. So I watched, you remember Board Games with Scott?
Yes.
With the big red beard.
Oh, yeah. I love Board Games with Scott. Yeah.
Yep. Watch that video. And it was Stefan, my friend from Yellow, Wayne, my friend Wayne, and I forgot who the other person was. We learned it. We watched the video. We came over to my house. We played. And that's why I have just an affinity for that, because I was like, yes, now I'm a gamer because I've learned the number 1 game on Board Game Geek. And now it's like close to 30 or something. It breaks my heart.
Oh, yeah. Yes. I mean, I remember when I was, when I joined Board Game Geek, Agricola was the number 1 game there. So it's, but I also knew that it was one of the more heavier games, just because, I spent time at the game store. I got to talk with the game store owner, and, he was the one that was telling me, oh, yeah, Agricola is a great game, but it's a heavier game and so forth. And you kind of want to work your way up to it and stuff.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Agricola has a soft spot in my heart as well.
Well, those are our 5 top games where we don't like, but a lot of other people love, and hopefully you guys listen to our reasons and whether we made good points or not.
Really quick, Emerson, you kind of responded to all of ours. Do you happen to have anyone that you really do dislike?
Oh, okay. So one that, as you guys were talking, I kept on thinking to myself, okay, is there any that I have in particular? And there are 2 that sort of came to mind. The first is Warhammer. So not that I don't like the game itself, because I invested in this is going back to the ones that we spent a lot of money on. I spent $500-600 on Warhammer miniatures over like the past, I'm going to say 15 years or so, like just picking things. But I have like an entire Bretonnian army, but I can't get them painted for the life of me. And it's just too embarrassing to go with an unpainted army. So that's one aspect that niggles at me. The other aspect is that when it comes to the tape measure, my God, I am all thumbs. I got to tell you, it hurts me when I knock over someone else's very meticulously painted figure because I don't know how to handle that tape measure. And it's a great, I know that a lot of people really love these like miniature style game, but it just does not work for me in that the manual coordination of not knocking over figures as you're putting things out. Now with X-Wing, I still do knock over figures and things like that. So but at least they have the templates, which alleviates some of that.
Yeah.
but it hasn't totally. But with Warhammer, boy, it's a game that I would really like to get into. But God, it's such a frustrating experience for me. So that's my game that like I just can't play it as much as I want to. But there's a lot of it's got a huge fan base.
And what was the other one?
Oh, the other one is no, not Terraforming. It was Terra Mystica.
Oh, really?
Yes. It's a game that I know a lot of people really, really enjoy, and I think it might have been that I went into it with these really high expectations because it just eked into the number 1 or 2 spot on Board Game Geek. Like it rose really, really high on BGG. And I remember that, like for instance, it was Agricola was number 1, and then Twilight Struggle kind of overtook Agricola, and I really enjoyed that game. So everything that was in like the top 100 of Board Game Geek, I ended up really, really enjoying. So, and I saw Terra Mystica like rise up the ranks. I thought, okay, this is going to be another game that I'm really, really going to love. And I think because I went into it with that expectation, and I think that is what sort of sabotaged the experience for me, is that my expectations were just unrealistically high. And so each time that I've played it, so I played it on 3 occasions, and I think that it was just the rules overhead, just the amount of rules you needed to learn just to be able to play the game. And then once you're in the game, and I think it's because I didn't have enough plays of it, so I was in sort of that Agricola boat, in that I haven't gotten enough plays to it where I appreciate all those mechanics, because at first blush, all those mechanics, it was just like the kitchen sink of everything. And it was just so hard for me to appreciate it because it didn't feel, at least at the onset, it didn't feel like elegant and, very intricately put together, but it's most likely because I haven't played it enough.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right though. It does have 8 actions, I believe you can do on your turn, 8 different options. And the rule book is there is a lot of little things you need to know, so it can be a little overwhelming and a little bit to really get into.
Yeah, I think there was also another aspect where it was a Euro game, but it had this fantasy theme, and I was really, back in my college days, Dungeons and Dragons was a big part of my life, and so I was like, oh, this is a Euro game, but it's got this fantasy theme. I could be the Chaos Magicians.
100%. That's why I played it more so than the Euro part of it. I played it because the fantasy stuff got me in there for sure.
Yeah. The fantasy theme drew me in. It's like, oh, this is great. This is going to be like the best of both worlds. And I think that elevated the expectations even higher. And as the Chaos Magician, it's like, okay, so I get to cast spells, and okay, I turn this yellow hex into a red hex. So I think it's because I was just so high that Crash was just it came from such a high place.
Oh no, definitely can understand
so
that.
It's not the game's fault, but it was one of those things that I just got very, very disappointed because my expectation was very different than what the game was.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. Well, you know what? We've been going. We're going on almost 2 hours. So I don't know if you could maybe hang around maybe for 15 more minutes, because we'll end up here at 7.
Sure.
But I'd like to maybe go to Discord, Grant.
Sure.
If we can open that up. So maybe if people have questions for Emerson.
I see Eric is currently hanging out in the waiting room. Eric, I'm assuming you want to join us on there. Same thing, Emerson, if you want to actually get in the voice channel, mute me and Tim, because you'll still hear us on Skype, but everybody else you'll want to hear through Discord.
Sure.
Throw us over there really quick. There we go. We're back.
All right. And once again, thank you for joining us, folks. So we really appreciate you coming out to watch us on Meepleville Live. We're joined by our special guest, Emerson Matsuuchi, the designer of Century Spice Road and the trilogy that followed, the whole Century series. Foundations of Rome, the brand new Kickstarter coming out. He's got Metal Gear coming out later this year or early in 21. Also Reef, Spectre Ops, but a lot of games under his belt. And right now he is with us in the Discord channel. So if you have any questions you'd like to go ahead and ask Emerson, please come along and join us in our Discord channel. The link is right up there in the Facebook feed that Grant has put up, so you can go in there and join us.
And we're still waiting for Emerson to get in here, and then I'll start dragging people in as well.
Okay.
Let's see. Where should I go? Is it the lobby?
Yeah, go to any of the voice channels, and I'll drag you down into our channel.
Oh, okay.
Yep, there you are. Now you're with us here, and again, if you can mute both me and Tim in Discord, that way you won't hear double talk.
Okay. Let's see.
And how do we know who's in here with us, Grant?
Bunch of people waiting down in the waiting room. I see Eric. I see Steve up in the lobby.
Oh yeah, you can bring him in
Yeah,
there.
we got
Oh,
a
good.
bunch
got
of people
couple
trying to join this week.
All right,
Eric's
who's
been.
the first one?
I'm gonna try dragging Eric in here.
Okay.
All right, Eric, you look muted. I don't know if you've set up your Discord to talk yet. There you go. Try saying something, Eric.
Nothing, Eric?
Yep, there you go. I hear you, Eric.
Yeah.
How you doing, man?
Hello, man. How are you?
Here, Eric.
Good,
Yeah.
good, and you?
Oh, we're doing what we can, Eric.
Yes.
I see.
And Emerson, just so you know, Eric is one of our members. Comes in there every single Wednesday, and he's all the way from Brazil. He's in America for a while.
Oh, wow.
As I am.
Well, welcome.
So, Eric, do you have a question for Emerson?
If I have a question for Emerson.
Yes. Or you just wanted to come in and say hi.
Yeah, that's we are here to be together, I guess.
Yes, of course.
So I just want to say hi. Yeah.
Yes,
Hey.
I know. And Eric, so I want to know what you've been doing with yourself since now, like every single Wednesday you can't make it to Meepleville. What have you been doing?
Yeah, I'm streaming League of Legends and Satisfactory at Twitch.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, nice.
I've still been playing. I think Heroes of the Storm. I like a little bit more than League of Legends, Eric. I did play League for off and on for a while.
Oh, God. I'm going to be the
Understand,
contrarian
yeah.
here again. I play
You know.
Dota.
Oh,
I'm at home
never
because,
Dota.
Never Dota.
the streets are dead, so yeah, I don't. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure.
We got
I
Steve
play.
in there in the waiting room too, so we can drag him in.
Yeah. How about you, Tim? Do you play any video games in your spare time?
I do not at all. My last, it was actually a computer game, was Age of Empires. That's the
Oh.
last game I played. That was years and probably 20 years ago, whatever. I mean, I don't know. But you know how I stopped playing it? Are you familiar with the game?
Yes, actually, I
As I am.
recently downloaded the Age of Empires 3 Remastered Edition.
Okay, so you got good. You guys know good. So what I was doing is, you play the game and you got to grow your civilization. So here I would be like whatever it was, the cave people. You're growing your farms. You got to get the people at the well and they come out or whatever it is. And all of a sudden I'm with these cave people or whatever it was, and then I'd see a chariot come into my camp, and I'd be like, how is that even possible? How did a guy with a chariot come in here? And then I found out there were cheats. So people were cheating.
Yeah.
So here I am. This is the internet, like I said, 20 years ago. So I'm probably getting beat by like some 8-year-old kid over in Yugoslavia or something on the internet. I was like, you know what? I'm done with this.
The one and only video game Tim's ever played.
I know.
Ruined by cheaters.
Ruined
Never
by
cheat,
cheaters. That's-
and it's still so prevalent nowadays too, Tim, which is really sad. And I don't get it. Cheating in literally anything, like why? Especially in a video game. What do you get out of that?
Right.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I play video games. I love video games. I love games, by the way. But the thing is, being with people and enjoying your time with people playing games is even better. So that's why
yes.
board games are better in my opinion. But now, I don't even have my Terraforming Mars I bought with you guys because I forgot there in Brazil. So can't even play Terraforming Mars at home.
Well, Eric,
Oh,
you're not missing out.
I was waiting for that.
well, we'll
Yeah,
get
I
together,
knew that.
Eric. We'll get together. I'll let you use the
I
game
was
from
waiting for
Meepleville.
this. I was waiting for this. I know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, as soon as we can get back open and doing something, Eric, we absolutely will. So we'll be seeing you back
Yeah.
in there at some point.
Yeah, you will.
But okay,
Well,
I'm gonna swap you.
thank you for stopping in, Eric.
Yep, thanks, Eric.
Thanks, Eric.
Have a good one, guys.
You too.
Thank you, Emerson.
All right, take care now.
And then up next, we got Steve joining us again. What's up, Steve? I just switched him over, so he might take a second to hear us on Discord.
All right, Steve, you there? And Emerson, I'll just tell you a little bit about Steve. Steve was a member of Meepleville also. He is a traveling nurse, or was a traveling nurse. He's now studying to become a nurse practitioner, and he's made his home base up in Indianapolis, right near Gen Con.
Oh, wow.
And he's got a lovely wife, Jen, too. So the two of them were very lovely people. Is
Oh.
he in here, Steve?
He-
Oh, he may not be. So
I don't know
Emerson,
where he
how old-
disappeared. Yeah,
Oh,
we'll just talk until he shows up.
Emerson, how old are your kids?
11, 9, and 7.
Ooh.
And do you play games with them at all?
Yes.
Well, let me ask you this. Do they like your games?
Oh. So I haven't, let's see. Yes, they do like Spice Road and Reef. So they do like those. But I think the other ones might be, well, I haven't played Spec Ops with them yet.
Okay.
So, but what we tend to play a lot of the family games from Yellow. I remember for a while, Yellow was one of their favorite brands of games. So,
They've got great games, yeah.
Yeah, they got fantastic games like Fun Farm. That was like one of their favorites. They like the speed, dexterity style stuff. It's not as dangerous as Jungle Speed, which is one of my games.
Yeah.
We still show people Fun Farm at work just because, like, we get, like, the college crowd in there just telling people, like, yeah, fight for these. Like, people love that.
Yes, they do.
Yes. And it's the squishy farm animals. You can't beat that. Right?
Oh, they get so beat up. Ours are, like, missing legs and all sorts of stuff. Poor cow.
Yeah. My son really loves King of Tokyo. That's like one of his favorite.
Oh, yeah.
Some of their other ones that are not, we have a bunch of Yellow games. And oh, by the way, Tim, thank you for those Yellow games. My kids really enjoy those.
Oh, absolutely.
But some of the other ones, I know I'm sounding like a Yellow fanboy, but some of the other games that they really like is Ice Cool. They really love Ice Cool. And that's from Brain Games, as well as, what's the other one? Doodle Quest, I think is it called?
Yes.
Doodle Rush, I'm sorry, Doodle Rush.
Okay. But Doodle Quest is a game, too.
Yes.
And I've seen so many people play Ice Cool down at the cafe, and I've actually never played that one for all the different dexterity games that are out there. I know people do really like that one, but I've never tried it myself.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's great.
Are your kids good at it? Like, can they do the spin to get it through doors and stuff like that?
Not quite. We're still fumbling around. Like I know that you can do like a hop if you like flick the head portion to where it will take the bottom's momentum and throw it over the walls. So, but we tend to hurt our fingers when we do that. So
okay.
When you keep trying to do it, it starts to really get a little painful, get a little sore on the fingertips. But they're trying to do the little spin too, so they can move into like say 2 rooms by doing the spin just right. But we're not able to do it at any consistent level, so we're still rather casual.
Oh, okay.
So Steve said that his mic seems to not be working. So I just asked him if he had any questions for you, Emerson, and he went straight to the big obvious one. What are some of your favorite games?
Ooh, favorite games. Okay.
Favorite games. Yeah, we kind of went over ours last week, or I think that what we did last week were games we thought we were good at, and thought we were good at was in quotation marks. So that might be another avenue to go down.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to mention like maybe 3 or 4 of my favorite games because it's really hard to always pick like the one favorite game.
Yep.
Right.
But for cooperative games, I think my favorite one is Robinson Crusoe. That one I really, really enjoy.
As a solo game or playing with other people?
Actually, both.
Okay.
I really do enjoy playing with other people. Now, because I really enjoy video games as well, I hardly ever play a board game solo.
100% agree.
If I'm playing a board game solo, I think I would much rather go and play some video games, especially all the games I've accumulated on Steam that I haven't touched from those summer sales. But Robinson Crusoe is the only game that I actually do enjoy playing solo. Like I would set it up and I would play it solo just because I enjoy it so much.
Right.
For competitive games, it would be Blood Rage. I have such a great time every time I play Blood Rage, and every time I think I played it out and I'm tired of it. It's like every time I bring it out, it's like nope, I'm still having a lot of fun with this game. Win or lose, I always just enjoy the experience.
My problem with Blood Rage is you're right. It's a great game, but it's one of those kind of games where if you play with somebody who knows the cards and knows the combos, you're done.
Yes. but you got to make sure they don't get it.
And again, I think that's most war games in general. Experience is going to definitely trump out in a war game.
Yes, yes. Now, Blood Rage is one of those games where it desperately needs more cards. Like, I really, really, really want
Yeah.
more cards for that game.
Yes, you can hear me?
Yeah, Steve, I can hear you.
Oh, okay, good.
Emerson, can
Finally.
you hear Steve now? There you go.
Just barely. Is there? Let me see if there's a volume control for him.
All right. Yeah. Hey, thanks for joining in, Steve. Yeah, Emerson was just answering your question about some of his favorite games.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, my mic was having some difficulties, but yeah, it's good to talk with you guys. Of course, good to see you, Tim and Grant again. And excellent to see you, Emerson. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
You answered my one question, but another question I put in the chat that I don't think you've answered yet is, when do we get that brain-burning game that you promised or that you trialed with that Spice Road, Century Spice Road 3 option? Because that sounds super interesting to me.
Okay, well, it's very coincidental. I just signed the contract with Plan B for that one because I actually turned that into its own game.
Oh, wow.
So it was able to lift its shackles, so it's not it's not tied to like those full resources from Spice Road. So by making its own game, now I'm free to make it a game that is not going to need to appeal to a very specific audience. So, and because of that, it's become a much more, I guess, cerebral game. And that one is going to be developed by Plan B. And I think development for that should start soon. I have no idea when the release is going to be, but it is something that is sort of official. I don't think they've announced it yet. So you have some, I guess, inside information there on that.
Oh, wow. And again, with that one, I don't know how much you can tell us, Emerson, but is it going to be within the world or themed with Century, or is it going to be something completely different?
I suspect it's going to be different. The way I presented it to them is that it had more of a Roman senator theme to it.
Okay.
But they did mention that they're not sure if that would be the most appealing theme. They're going to go through a round where they're going to actually start discussing the theme to see if there's a theme that could be more appealing to fit with the mechanics.
Wow, that's fantastic. We got an exclusive right here on Meepleville Live. Check that out.
Just because you happen to mention that theme, Emerson, have you ever heard of a game called Chicken Caesar?
Yes, I have.
We love that game. Steve has played it.
Oh, yeah.
It came out of like nowhere. Somebody grabbed it at Gen Con like 3 or 4 years ago, and it's just such a ridiculous game with such a perfect theme. Yeah.
You know what I love about that is, and I've been wanting to get a copy, but it's a little hard to find.
Yeah.
I guess it's been for a while. But I love that it's the rest, aside from like the title and just the reference to the chickens, but everything else, it's a serious game.
It is.
It's got this serious game with this I guess the conceit is that it's going to be a silly theme with a serious game underneath it.
And I think I prefer those. I really enjoy those.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know what, folks? We're getting close to 7 o'clock here, so we just want to go because I appreciate Emerson being with us for so long. And thank you, Steve, for coming in and asking your question and joining us again for the show. We really appreciate it. Love seeing you every week. Please give our best to Jen, by the way, because don't get to hear from her too often. Yeah, so say hi to her. And Eric for joining us on the Discord channel as well. But Emerson, thank you so much for spending 2 hours with us. I mean, that's a big chunk of your time.
I do have one more question for Emerson before we go. When you first joined the Discord, I saw you had your tag set to Monster Hunter World. Are you playing Monster Hunter?
Yes.
What's your favorite weapon main there?
Right now, I'm maining light bowgun, just because it's so incredibly effective right now.
Yep. I played when Iceborne came out. I played a ton of it, and then I kind of dropped off again. But it comes and goes in waves. But glad to see somebody else playing that game still.
Yeah. There's some new updates that are coming.
I saw that it just got a new patch. It might be something I pick back up. Not like I have anything else to do.
Yeah.
Play on PC or maybe we could take this off.
PC.
Okay. I'm just starting to get on the PC. I've been mostly playing on the PlayStation.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm always here on this Discord. Again, anybody else is also welcome to ever join me on this Discord. Some other people have been using it for our game nights. We didn't get a chance to talk about that. But anytime people want to hang out and find a place to talk to other people, feel free to join us on here.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Again, folks. Yep. Thank you again, Emerson. Yeah, so Emerson, you're part of like the Meepleville Dice Tower family now, right? You're with us at Dice Tower West here at Meepleville Live. You're a
Yeah.
fantastic person. Thank you so much. It's great
Thank you.
having you, and hopefully we'll see you again sometime and all that.
Yes,
Come
thank you.
and join us. So
Yes,
thank
thank
you
you
all
guys
for
for
joining
having me.
us. Yeah, thank you all for joining us for Meepleville Live. And Emerson, before we go real quick, I know you said Foundations of Rome and Metal Gear. Is there any other thing you'd like to say you have coming out soon?
Oh, I think those are the only ones I'm able to really mention. And I know I teased a little bit about a new upcoming Plan B title there,
Right.
just because we were talking about Century, this whole Century series. So those are really the only ones that I think that are more on the definite side of things.
Very good, very good. Well, folks out there, make sure you go ahead and support all the games that Emerson has. Like I said, the Century Series, Reef, Spectre Ops, Foundations of Rome, any other. Well, what are some other games, by the way? Mention some other games, Emerson.
I guess Crossfire was the other one, which
Okay.
is a little hidden little social deduction game.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Grant, is there anything else you'd like to say?
Nope, I'm good.
All right. Well, again, thank you folks very much. Emerson, one more time, we really, really appreciate it. And we'll see you guys next week, same time, 5 o'clock Pacific time on YouTube and on Facebook.